The other issue is I have a better chance of dying from an antibiotic resistant bacteria than I do from cancer in my lifetime. By 2050, more people will die from antimicrobial resistance than currently die or will be dying from cancer. And we think about all the people you know who have unfortunately have died of cancer. And then you say, okay, well, more people you know by 2050 would have died from an antimicrobial resistance bacteria infection.
That's a startling thing, and I'm instantly drawn towards finding some way to disagree with you, even though I have no idea what the numbers are, right? So, my immediate reaction is no, that's not right.
No, that's not. It's very possible it's not right. That's from a scientific report called the O'Neill Report. I think it was published 6 or 7 years ago now. It does take some liberties with the modeling, and it does take some. I think that report is a little overestimated, but it's one of the biggest wide-scale reports we have, and in the absence of better, more conclusive evidence, it's worth thinking that this is not outside the realm of possibility. It's just it's a model what people have developed, but I always like to point this out when I'm giving talks because again, people look at me and go, "Oh, that's a big number," and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. Today, I know people are dying 5 miles from me down the road in the hospital because of antimicrobial resistance. It's happening today. It's not like one of these nebulous things. Oh, in the future we'll have this problem. There are children, elderly, middle-aged people with minor infections will die because of antimicrobial resistance.
So this makes me think of a question that I think is on a lot of people's minds right now, which is we are going to die, all of us, unless we find some super amazing way to do healthcare that's inconceivable right now. So when we start talking about you are going to die of these things, or this is your likelihood of dying, it can come off as be afraid, so now listen or fund or whatever to my idea. How should we divide the line between those two things?
I don't know. As exciting as that response is, it's really not my expertise. I'm very insular. I work on what I would consider a fairly wide range of things. I work from bacterial communication, infection dynamics, up to understanding policy of using viruses to treat bacteria. There's a fairly wide gamut of things I have to be involved with. When compared to most other scientists, I'm doing a wide range of things, but I also don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not I'm not much of a philosopher. So I think we should be funding more. I say we should be funding more about public education about sciences and stuff. But then I see what we've done. We mentioned the podcast earlier. I always feel so terrible now. Miles and I spent 4 or 5 years weekly talking to a couple thousand people, and it's all been for really nothing because now we're in a position where the leader of the free world is telling you drink bleach. It feels very weird to have such a small effect on the planet. So my opinion may be not worth anything. I think we should be funding more antimicrobial research stuff, but I don't. You've caught me in a trap here because I don't like to use fear to sell people things. I often see this as a pseudoscience technique. People will use fear to sell something to someone. You see it all the time in the anti-vaxxers and the anti-GMO people. They try and trying to say that's designed to make you afraid and say, I have the cure, I have the solution. And I can't all good consciousness say, well, I have a cure. It's I don't. That's the whole point of science. We need to work out better ways forward. But yeah.
I think you've just done something really humble that's easy for a guy like me to do because I don't know. I cannot read the papers. And it's not that I'm not an intelligent person. It's that I did not spend the years and years and years it takes to understand deeply what a p-value is and how the statistics. So I can kind of look at something and take an abstract.
P-values.
Yeah, but I can take an abstract and I can say like, okay, that sounds like a pretty good narrative, but I don't really know. And I'm comfortable saying I don't know. One of the weirdest things that's happened in the coronavirus is that every single person involved in this, spare like the 10 people that studied this particular type of epidemic, is actually really vulnerable to the Dunning-Kruger effect, where they've read a few things, they have a story in their head, and anybody that assaults it is assaulting your tribe. So people become deeply entrenched. And it's like, I don't understand how anybody can be confident, because I wake up in the morning, I'm like, hey, the sun's shining. I bet coronavirus is pretty much done now. And then I go downstairs and see a few things on Twitter, and I'm like, oh man, we're in the thick of it now. Things are only getting worse.
So